Hello everyone, Genki here, and today we're doing part 2 of my Oblivion Major Skills Only miniseries. We're going to be playing Oblivion using the Mage class. This gives us access to all schools of magic and alchemy. We're not allowed to use any weapons or armor, we can't repair anything ourselves, we cannot block attacks, there are no wards in this game as far as I know, we cannot sell anything, or more importantly, we cannot buy spells. We are limited to what we start with and what we are given. I am planning on doing the Mage's Guild quest this run. We also cannot sneak, pickpocket, or pick locks. Lastly, we cannot sprint or jump. Let's see how this goes. I went as a Bren, since they get boost to all the Mage class's major skills except Destruction, along with a 50% boost to magical resistance and 50 extra magicka. The run started with Sir Patrick Stewart informing us that he dreams of us. All characters start with the flame spell, so thankfully we at least had some means of attack to get past the rats and goblins. For a star sign, we picked the mage of course, giving us another 50 magicka. After following Gandalf to his figurative grave, we could finally pick our class and get the run started.
There are rats and goblins down there, but from what I've seen of you, I'm guessing you're an experienced mage. Am I right?
When picking a magic-based class, the game provides the player with at least one spell for the school of magic they picked. Most notably, we got an open very easy lock spell, a conjure skeleton spell, and frost and shock spells. Those last two were touch spells though. We couldn't do anything in the Imperial City, but I at least looted the barrels and crates for a new outfit. I didn't feel like walking around in cultish robes. We then made our way to Wayne Priory. In the warrior run, I mentioned that I wasn't going to fast travel unless I visited a city first, which was fine for the class that had athletics as a major skill. The mage does not have that luxury. For anyone watching that doesn't believe me, I will upload a 1 to 2 hour video of me walking and horseback riding to every major city. Don't tempt me. Once the amulet was in the hands of Joffrey, and we knew the location of Euroseptimus' last remaining son, we made our way into Coral. To enter the Arcane University, we needed a recommendation from each Mage's Guild. The leader of the Coral Mage's Guild wanted us to find out why Arana, an acquaintance of his, was in town. She was looking for the book Fingers of the Mountain, not to be confused with the couple hotspot Fingering Mountain. Bonus points if you get that reference. By traveling up a hill north of town, we could find the ruins of Cloudtop, where a charred body is holding the book. We gave the book to the guild leader. I know there's a spell we can get from giving Arana the book, but to get it and the guild recommendation, I would need to pickpocket the book off of the guild leader. Next up was Skingrad, which was on our way to Kavash. The guild leader wanted us to check up on Urthor. She banned Urthor from experimenting in the guild hall, and she hasn't heard from him in a while. After talking to a couple of associates, we found that Urthor was in Bleedsfat's cave. The cave was covered in zombies. At the end of the cave we found Urthor, who would not leave until every zombie was gone. We had a little trouble locating the last one, but we were soon out of the cave with Urthor. 2 recommendations complete. Down the road was the city of Kavach. It was in major disarray. Daedra had attacked the city looking for Martin, and in order for us to get Martin out of the city, we needed to close the Oblivion gate blocking the entrance. Scamps have a resistance to fire, so we needed to use our frost and shock spells. When we got to the Sigil Stone, I attempted to re-roll it, but ended up just stopping at a 5% magic resistance enchantment. I'm pretty sure there's no difference between 50% and 55 magic resistance, but well. With Martin now accompanying us, we made our way back to Wayne Priory, which was under attack by the Mythic Dawn. Once all the attackers were taken care of, Joffrey told us they might have been after the Amulet Kings. Surely he kept it in a secure location like Cloud Roller Temple. Nope, a closet. At least we had Martin. With Wayne and Priory no longer safe, we now had to take Martin to Cloud Roller Temple outside of Bruma. Thankfully we now had a horse. With Martin now safe in the temple, I left for Bruma. The guild leader there wants us to find an associate named Jaskar. By talking to Volinaro, he will tell us where to find Jaskar, but we'll need to steal Jean's manual of spellcraft. Volinaro then taught us a new lockpicking spell. Jean's desk only had a very easy lock, but I then discovered Volinaro's spell opens up to an easy lock. One step up. Volinaro then told us to meet up with him downstairs at 10 p.m. What? 3 recommendations done. Next up was Anvil. The guild leader told us of a rogue mage attacking traveling merchants outside the city. The Mages Guild polices their own, and now it's up to us to deal with the rogue mage. We'll be assisted by a battle mage. At the Bringer Cross Inn, we were to meet up with Ariel Gerard, who told us that we were playing the part of a traveling merchant. After a good rest, we made our way down the road, where Comanalda, back from the inn, attacked us. We took it down just fine.
I'm just warming up, you pathetic worm!
There is something I'd like to point out though. For this challenge, I only consider it invalid if we gain a level in a minor skill, not if we gain experience in it. Part of this is because of how horses work. The horse sprints when I press the button for us to sprint. So if I get off Pyramabro's horse while it was sprinting, I will sprint. Sometimes I reset the save, sometimes I didn't. Next up was Verville. Apparently a student stole another student's mage's staff. Using a Begala score from the guild leader, we found out that he sold the staff to a friend of his in the Imperial City. Our disposition with him was low, so to get the guy to sell the staff, I not only used a Begala scroll, I also bribed him. Bribing people does not give speechcraft experience. He sold us the staff for 200 gold. The guild leader then rewarded us with our own charm spell, Captivate. I never used it. Further south from Breville was the town of Leowen. The guild leader had lost her marbles. A man named Kalthar was very defensive when we brought up the lost marbles, so we informed Nagata. The guild leader then told us we need to go to her father's grave to retrieve his amulet. I guess he suffered from the same issue. The tomb was filled with marauders, which are bandits who wear heavy armor. At the end of the tomb, we found the amulet, but were then jumped by Kalthar. We summoned our skeleton in order to distract Kalthar's own summon, allowing us to fight in 1v1. One recommendation left. On the way to Shane Hall, we found the Steed Doomstone, which gives us the Hellride Greater Power. Hellride gives us a 20-point boost to our speed. With no ability as a sprint, I'm scared of the Broom of Great Gate, so I put 20 points in the speed during our level ups, along with intelligence, willpower, and endurance. In Chain Hall, the guild leader told us to find a ring of burden that he thinks another associate lost, possibly by throwing it down the well. By talking to Dietzen, she will tell us that she thinks something bad had happened to the previous associate looking for a recommendation. She then gifted us a spell that gives us water breathing and feather. It didn't hit me until I was in the well. We needed to swim. Swimming gives athletic experience. We quickly found the dead body of Vgen in the ring. The remaster thankfully reworked encumbrance, so we could still move with the ring. When we left the well, I checked our stats, and we were so close to losing the run. By returning to Dietzen, we found out that the guild leader had left after a fight. In his room, we found black soul gems, which are needed to capture the souls of sentient beings. We reported this back to Dietzen, who agreed to write a recommendation for us. We could now talk to Remedius Polis at the Arcane University and become an apprentice. He gave us some apprentice robes, which gave us 2 points of willpower. We were level 4. If we were 1 level higher, we could have gotten robes with 4 points of willpower. Remedius told us that we needed a staff, and we could get one to enchant at Willspring Cave. Inside the cave, we found necromancers, and the body of Zarasha. The cave led us to a small island, where we found more necromancers and an unfinished staff. We reported the necromancers to Raminus and gave the staff to Delmar. Delmar asked us what kind of staff we wanted, and I chose a destruction staff with a frost enchantment. We now had to wait. Raminus will not give us any task without the staff, so we're back to the main quest. Back at Cloudroad Temple, Joffrey informed us to go find Boris in the Imperial City. Boris was being tailed by an agent of the Mythic Dawn. On his person was Volume 1, of Mankar Cameron's Commentaries on the Miserium Xarxes. Boris then told us to see Termina at the university. Because we're a student of the university, Termina was not waiting for us at the front. Instead, she was in the Mystic Archive. She gave us Book 2, and told us we could get clues to Books 3 and 4 at the First Edition bookstore. However, first, I made a trip to see Delmar to pick up our staff. 20 points of damage was incredible, since our current spells only did max 6 damage per hit. The shopkeeper at First Edition informed us he had a copy of Book 3, but it was on special order for somewhere else. We waited for the guy to arrive, and once he had the book, We informed him that the Mythic Dawn killed the Emperor, causing him to give us the book and the location of the fourth. We will need to get the book from a member of the Mythic Dawn. Gwyneth had a meeting set up with one named the sponsor. The meeting was in the sewers. There was no adoring fan this time, but somehow, our cover was still blown instantly. Raymond Cameron went down to 2 hits of our staff. On his body, we got the book and a base ring of fire shield. Back at the university, Ramirez wanted us to go fetch a book that was in loan to Janice Hasseldor, the Countess Skingrad. At Castle Skingrad, we talked to Hasseldor's steward, and he told us the Count would not be interested in speaking with us. After waiting a whole day, the steward then told us the Count will see us but not in the castle. He will meet us outside the city at 2 a.m. We got to the meeting place, but then got jumped by the steward and 2 necromancers. Our staff just plowed through them. We then got yelled at by the Count. It's not like I had a choice, dude. Hasseldor is a vampire, and the guild was worried he was in tow with the necromancers. He was not. Following this mission, we were given the rank of Evoker, and given the Spelldrinker amulet. It's an amulet with spell absorption on it. Our next task was to visit the alien ruins of Vatican. Erlef Gerald was supposed to be overseeing the site, but was busy at the university. Inside the ruins we found Skalil, who complains she is underappreciated.
What a waste of my talents.
Been there. Deeper in the ruins we found Danelle. There is a pillar blocking the way forward in the ruins. Around the room we found ancient writings. By comparing them to a book that Skalil has, we were able to decipher that we needed to hit the pillar with a fire spell, a frost spell, a damage magicka spell, and lastly a fortify magicka spell. The last 2 were provided thanks to scrolls in a chest. This opened up the rest of the ruins. Inside we found ghosts and zombies. At the end there was an ancient elven helm. I was a little confused until I discovered the aliens were elves. We gave the helmet to Erlaf and reported back to Raminus. The council needed us to uncover as much information as possible about black soul gems. We were also promoted to Conjurer and given some new threads. Our robes now boosted intelligence, willpower, and conjuration by 2 points. At the Mystic Archive, Tarmina told us to find a book called The Necromancer's Moon. Also, I finally looked up where to craft spells at the college. Seriously, what kind of word is prastographical? I decided to make a better flare spell. One that does 20 damage per hit versus 6. The book Necromancer's Moon talks about an event called the Revenant. Another scholar named Bothil told us that Falkar, the Shane Hall guild leader, was also interested in the Revenant and left a note. On the note were various locations, including the Dark Fissure. The Dark Fissure was close to Shane Hall, so I made sure to progress the main quest until we got the location marker for the Mythic Dawn hideout. I then made my way towards the Dark Fissure. When we initially reached the site, nothing had happened, but by waiting a few days, we found a light shining down on a chest. Behind the chest was a cave, which a necromancer suddenly appeared from. He was not that strong, but we did discover that necromancers were using the power of the Necromancer's Moon to turn Grand Soul Gems into Black Soul Gems. I then made a visit to the Mythic Dawn hideout. If it wasn't for our staff, I felt we would have been overwhelmed, since I went in and just started blasting. The Mythic Dawn agents in robes went down on 2 hits, while the ones in armor took 3 to 4 hits. As we traversed the shrine, we found a tome for an on-target shock spell. Our current one was untouched. When we reached the inner sanctum, I cast a dragon skin, before attempting to snipe the cultists. Despite our lack of armor, their bound weapons were not that strong. The only problem was that Better Flare used a lot of magicka. Even Ruma Cameron just tickled us as we took her out. She had a Staff of Lightning, and it also did 20 damage per hit. This will come in handy, since our Frost Staff was out of charges. With the room cleared of enemies, we grabbed the Mysterium Xerxes and made our way to the Imperial City. I also went cave diving for money, so we could recharge our Frost Staff. However, the money just wasn't coming in fast enough, so I made a trip to the Imperial City Talos Plaza. By waiting at night, this woman will start talking to us. Her husband sent her to find us, and wanted us to go to the house of someone named Serator. Serator is a member of a group of vampire hunters called the Order of the Virtuous Blood. He claimed a man named Roland Jinseric was a vampire, and saw him attack someone. Roland had gone missing. His house's lock was a hard lock. Thankfully, outside the city was the Tower of Doomstone, which gives us the Warden Key power. a power that can unlock one hard lock every 24 hours. After opening up every single door and chest in Roland's house, I eventually found a love letter. Roland had a house outside the city. When we arrived at the house, Roland told us that Surtur was the vampire. For the ending we needed, we of course believed Roland and went to go find Surtur. Surtur often visited the bookstore. However, to get the shopkeeper to open up, we had to bribe him. He then told us that Surtur often went to Memorial Cave. The cave was full of vampires. They took extra damage for a fire spell, so they were fine to deal with. The Timberwolves, however, were the issue. At the end, we found Surtur, who went down in 2 hits. By telling Roland of Surtur's death, he will now join the Order of the Virtuous Blood, and give us 250 gold for every vampire dust we give him. This gave us enough gold to recharge our staves. We also got a Ring of Sunfire, which comes with disease resistance and spell reflection. Our next task from the Mage's Guild comes from the Archmage. Lucianus, an informant from the Mage's Guild inside the Necromancer's Cove, might have had his identity compromised. We were told to go to one of the Necromancer's hideouts to save the informant. However, first, I made a trip to the spellcrafting station. Better Flare was starting to not do that much damage against normal enemies, so I decided to try something else. I made a multi-damage spell that did 20 points of fire, 20 points of frost, and 20 points of shock. I called it Elemental Burst. It required 89 magicka to use though. At the entrance to the Necromancer's hideout, we found a lone battle mage. The enemy ambushed them, and he was the only one left. How the fuck did he survive that? Oh, he went down to a zombie. Better Flare was apparently enough to one-shot the High Elf Necromancers. High Elves have a weakness to fire, frost, and shock. However, the Bretons took more hits. As we progressed further, we discovered Mucianus was no longer human. He had been made into a Worm Thrall. We found Mucianus inside a secret room at the end of the dungeon. Worm Thralls are apparently just zombies. By the way, we were level 7 at this point, and I decided to cap our speed at 50. I decided to focus more now on intelligence and endurance. We reported about Mucianus back to Archmage Traven. However, first, we had a promotion. We were now a Warlock. All of our tasks will now come from the Archmage. Count Hasador has information for the guild, and he requested specifically for us to come get it. However, upon meeting the Count, he needed us to do something for him. All information comes with a price. Some vampires had made home outside the city, causing vampire hunters to come into the city. Hasador wanted us to get rid of them. I found one of the hunters and informed him where the vampires were. But apparently I needed to find and talk to all the hunters, and I just couldn't be bothered with that today. This meant I was taking on the cave alone. The vampires in the cave were definitely harder than the ones with Surtur. I had to switch to Elemental Burst in order to at least two-shot them. One of the vampires dropped the Staff of Fireball. That's all 3 elements. As we were finishing up the cave, one of the vampire hunters, Karsten, suddenly entered the cave. He aggroed the rest of the vampires in the cave, and amongst the scuffle, we ended up hitting him, causing him to attack us. Ooh, I wonder what that means. We then somehow found vampire dust in Karsten's body. However, we then saw a vampire next to him who had no dust. I think somehow he picked it up as he had killed him. With the vampires all dead, we can now tell the vampire hunters they're no longer needed, and get our information. Mannimarco, the king of worms, has returned. Mannimarco was a high elf, and the father of necromancy. He supposedly died during the events of Daggerfall. In Daggerfall, you had the option to give Mannimarco an item called the Mantella, which Mannimarco used to become the Necromancer's Moon. I'm just going to say this now. No, I will not play Daggerfall, unless they do a remake. And I don't mean Daggerfall Unity. Back in the Imperial City, I tried cashing in on our vampire dust, but for some reason, the dust of the Bloodcrust vampires is flagged differently than normal vampire dust. Well, that sucks. At the university, we told the Archmage of Mannimarco. He said he would need to speak with the council. And I'm talking longer than 1 day. So I made my way back to Cloud Road Temple to turn in the Mysterium Xarxes. We now have to deal with spies outside the temple. I decided to wait by the runestone and take out both the spies at the same time. I then talked to Captain Bird, allowing us to enter Gerald's house and uncover the Mythic Dawn's plans. We then returned to Joffrey. Am I interrupting something, Joffrey? We told him of the spy's plans, and he sent us to Martin. The first item we needed in order to get to Mankar's paradise was a Daedric artifact. However, first, we checked up with the Archmage, who sent us back to Bruma. The guild leader hasn't spoken to the Archmage in some time, which made him worry. Upon entering the Bruma's Mages Guild, we found it covered in flames and skeletons. Really strong skeletons. It has more to deal with there being multiple though. 2 hits of Elemental Burst could take out a single skeleton, but with it using so much magicka, we had to switch to our staff. The downstairs was even worse. We had to immediately use Dragon Skin upon entering. This allowed us to tank the skeleton's attacks, and take him out. We did use up all of our magicka potions though. This led us into Jean's office, where we found a necromancer. She was a lot easier than the skeletons. The Scar then appeared, and told us that Man Marco himself attacked the guild hall. We'll need to wait again for our next task, but at least now we're a wizard, which gives us the best spell of the run. Wizard's Fury, which does 10 points of fire damage, 10 points of frost damage, and 10 points of shock damage for only 13 magicka. Half the strength of Elemental Burst for a quarter of the cost. We did some more cave diving for money, since we couldn't turn in that vampire dust. This gave us a level up, and a visit by Lucy and LaChance. Lucy, go away. I'm not doing your quest this run. When we returned to the Archmage, we found out the council was a mess. Erlef Gerald had taken the Bloodworn Helm in order to study it, and Karanya had taken the Necromancer's Amulet in order to keep it safe. We were tasked with getting those items back. First was the Bloodworn Helm. Erlef took the helm to Fort Telemann. The fort was covered in necromancers, but then dangers started appearing. They were just scamps, clanfears, and flame astronauts though, so Wizard's Fury dealt with them just fine. We then found Erlef dead. Were the Daedra his doing, or the necromancers? Next up was the Necromancer's Amulet. Inside Fort Ontis, we found some mages, but I knew thanks to just background noise, these were necromancers in disguise. So I made sure to take them all out before approaching Karanya. Karanya was alive, but she was in line with the necromancers. She went down to a spam of Wizard's Fury. We returned the items to the Archmage, who had a new task for us. The necromancers had created a new special black soul gem, and we, along with some battle mages, needed to confiscate the soul gem. We met up with the battle mages, and while waiting for the necromancers to come out of their hideout, we found a familiar face, Falcar. Though, as the battle mages and I jumped the necromancers, Falcar ran back into the ruins. Thankfully, he left the door unlocked. While traversing through the ruins, we found two Varla stones. That's 2 full charges on every staff in our inventory. When we found Falcar, he immediately attacked us, but for some reason, despite being mage, he mostly used his dagger, as we spammed Wizard's Fury at him. But we beat him without needing to use a health potion. Just barely though. We can now take the Colossal Black Soul Gem from Falcar and give it to the Archmage. The Archmage then inserted his own soul into the Soul Gem. This was so the Soul Gem could protect us from being enthralled by Man Marco. It was time to make our way to Echo Cave and take on Man Marco. Man Marco summoned a headless zombie, but he himself only attacked with a dagger. The headless zombie still hit like a truck, but I was expecting more magic from a member of the Citric Order. We can now return to the university and report our Rector Doraminus, who gave us a pair of Archmage robes and an Archmage hood. I decided to use them for the drip. They were unenchanted, but the +2 to intelligence and willpower from the Conjurer robes were not really helping us that much. Time to get that Daedric artifact. I decided to do Periat's quest. Starting from Beville, we made our way across the lake. I found a pair of water walking shoes on one of the necromancers. This made travel to the shrine so much easier. At the shrine, Periat informed us that his followers were trying to summon him, but instead got themselves stuck in a plane of oblivion. We needed to save them. This required us to walk around, fight the occasional Daedra, and interact with various ghosts in the area. This in return gave us Spellbreaker, a shield with a very strong spell reflection enchantment. We gave it to Martin, who told us the next item was the Blood of a Divine. The armor of Tiber's Septum has his blood on it, so we'll need to retrieve it. However, first, we need to help Captain Bird and the Bruma Guard with an Oblivion Gate. We were at a higher level than the warrior run, so the Dremora were now tier 3, but the guardsmen were still strong enough to take them on. There was also a lot of flame atronachs, but again, no problem. We actually made it to the top with everyone still alive. I didn't bother resetting the Sigil Stone. I had doubts I could get a better roll than Fortified Magicka. It was 30 points too. I put it on our hood. Next up was the ruins of Sacred Tor, where the armor of Tiber Septim was located. We made the trip starting from Echo Cave. Except for a mountain lion and a bear, the trip was relatively danger-free, allowing Private Mabel's horse to survive the trip. He died on the trip to Sacred Tor in our last run. Inside Sacred Tor, the armor we needed was currently being encased by a barrier created by the Underking. To dissipate the barrier, we needed to free the souls of 4 Ancient Blades members. We did find one soul already free from his skeleton prison, but the skeleton itself was antagonizing him. Next up on Martin's shopping list was the Great Welkin Stone. I already had Miss Garkin on the map, so we could just fast travel there. For the one drop we had to do, we managed to get on this ledge, allowing for an easier drop and no acrobatics experience. At the end of the dungeon was a Great Welkin Stone, along with the boss of the dungeon, the King of Miss Garkin. Ooh, a Staff of Silence. We can use that on Makar. What item left? A Great Sigil Stone. This required opening a Great Oblivion Gate. With no armor, I tried staying in the back, as the Bruma Militia took on the Daedra. However, with us needing to walk to the gate, we easily got taken out. We needed to be in the middle of the action, so that we could reduce the walk into the Great Gate. Before talking to the Countess of Bruma, I made sure to reactivate the Steed Stone. With Hellride, we now had 70 speed. However, I felt like the speed boost was not noticeable. It might only be noticeable if we were sprinting. Thankfully, thanks to our last run, we were able to learn the correct path through the dungeon, so we didn't get lost. However, we were still strapped for time. When the time hit 2 minutes, I stopped trying to take out enemies and beeline towards the Sigil Stone. This did require us drinking potions like an alcoholic, but we made it to the Sigil Stone with barely any time to spare. The Sigil Stone from the Siege Machine gave us a shock resistance enchantment. I put on our robes. Time to enter Makar's Paradise. The beginning area had Frost Atronachs and Daedroths. We were level 13, though we only needed to fight one Frost Atronach before coming across Cathatet. By taking out Cathatet, we could pick up the Bands of the Chosen, a pair of line armor bracers that were required to enter the Forbidden Grotto. A Flame Atronach we found at the start was no problem, but then we encountered a Clanfear in the next room. The Clanfear broke the Bands of the Chosen in a single hit, causing us to get a whole level in line armor. It took us multiple tries to take out the Clanfear. When we entered the grotto proper, we encountered the first Daedroth we needed to take out. I was expecting this thing to be pure melee. How does it have the ability to spew fire? We then ran into Element. I messed up this part of the quest in the last run, so I'm glad I got it this time. Element was willing to help us get out of the grotto. In exchange, he wanted to join us in the battle against Makar. To avoid fighting Orth, Element put us in a cage, but then opened it from the other side, allowing us to escape. The rest of the cave was filled with more Daedroth, but Element managed to tank first before dying. We also had to deal with Drake, but then Element returned, just in time to die again. We cannot leave the Forbidden Grotto, and proceed into our battle with Makar Cameron. I tried to start the battle with our Staff of Silence, just for the spell to reflect onto us. I kept firing, trying to silence Makar. When we finally got it to work, we switched to our Lightning Staff, while also attacking with Elemental Burst. Makar was strong enough he could summon a Dremora Cicada. Rumacera then also teleported in front of us out of nowhere, but we managed to get the KO on Makar. We could not take the Amulet Kings off Makar. I also took his robes, but I forgot to put them on. With the Amulet in Martin's hands, we made a trip to Imperial City, so Martin could be formally made Emperor. But then the Daedra attacked. We had to make our way to the Temple of the One. Outside the palace, we were jumped by a bunch of Daedra, and I think that caused one of the guards to attack either Chancellor Arcado or another guard. I decided to reset. This time, we were able to make our way outside the temple, just for us to get stomped on by Marin's Dagon. With a full health bar, we made our way past Marin's Dagon and into the Temple of the One, where Martin broke the Amulet Kings and defeated Marin's Dagon, ending the run. Here are our stats, showing I never got a level in a minor stat. Thank you to everyone who watched this video. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time for the final part in this Mage series, where I take on Oblivion using only the Thief's major skills.
Someone's been murdered. You dare oppose the might of the Imperial Legion? Not on this day. Remember the Emperor! Watch the flank. Wrong move. Die, cur! I fought mud crabs more
Not on
fearsome
this
than
day.
Ha! You'll never take me down!
you dare oppose the might of the Imperial Legion?
You're pathetic! Ha! You'll never... What happened? Where's Martin? I must congratulate him. The dragon will stand forever as a memorial to what you and Martin did for all of Tamriel.
You'll never take me down!
Ha! You'll never take me
Let's
down!
get this over with.
Oh! Ha!
You should have paid the fine!
Am I supposed to be impressed? This is the part where you fall down and bleed to death!
Yeah!
Why won't you die?
Die, cur!
Let's get this over with! This ends here! Show me what you've got!
Let's get this over with.
Ha!
That the best you can do? Yeah!
Show me what you've got!
This is the part where you fall down and bleed to death!
This is the part where you fall down and bleed to death! Why won't you die? This ends here! Show me what
You
you've got!
should have paid the fine!
Why won't you die?
Yeah! I'm just warming up, you pathetic worm! You should have paid the fine!
Let's get this over with! This is the part where you fall down and bleed to death!
You dare oppose the might of the
What's the
Imperial
matter?
Legion?
Getting tired? Ha!
Am I supposed to be impressed? Oh!